Everybody. Today we'll start the circulation. In today's lecture, first we'll see what are the different types of circulation of blood present in our body. In human body, what are the different types of blood circulation? Then we'll see the arterial and venous systems in our body. How the arterial system and the venous system are formed. Then we will go over the major arteries and veins in our body. We'll identify the major arteries and veins in our body. Then we'll talk about an important arterial structure located in the inferior surface, that means in the bottom of the brain. There is an important arterial structure that is called the circle of Willis. Why that arterial structure is important? Why the circle of Willis is important? Because your brain mainly gets blood from that circle of Willis. Your brain gets the blood mainly from the circle of Willis. So we'll see how it looks like, where it is located, and which arteries together form that circle of Willis. Then we'll talk a little bit about hepatic portal circulation. Okay, so those are the things we'll go over. First, in human body, you have two types of circulation: adult circulation and fetal circulation. So first we divide into adult and fetal. Adult circulation and fetal circulation. Okay, those two types. Now, in adult human body, you have three types of circulation present. What are those three? We have talked about this before: systemic circulation, pulmonary circulation, and portal circulation or hepatic portal circulation. So those three are adult circulations. In adult human body, we have those three types of circulation: systemic, pulmonary, and hepatic portal or portal. Fetal circulation is the circulation between the mother and the fetus, the mother's body and the fetus body. Okay. Now, systemic circulation is the circulation between the heart and the whole body. Pulmonary circulation is the circulation between the heart and two lungs. And portal or hepatic portal circulation is the circulation between your gastrointestinal tract and the liver. Okay. So, the hepatic portal is the circulation between your GI tract and the liver. Now you tell me, you already know, what type of blood goes to the lung in pulmonary circulation? Oxygenated or deoxygenated? To get oxygen. What type of blood goes to the body? Oxygenated. Okay. What type of blood is taken from the intestine to the liver? That blood contains a lot of nutrition, because we know that we eat the food, right? And absorption occurs in the intestine, and the blood, most of the blood is taken to the liver, because liver is the main site for primary site for metabolism. Okay, so first processing of the nutrients occur inside the liver, should occur inside the liver. That's why hepatic portal circulation is important. Nutrient rich blood will go to the liver. Now, uh, circulation of blood occurs inside the blood vessels. Blood circulates inside the blood vessels. Now, what are the blood vessels we have? We have arteries, veins, and capillaries. Those are the blood vessels. Arteries take the blood away from the heart. That's the definition of an artery. Artery takes the blood away from the heart. Make sense? It doesn't matter what kind of blood. You know that in pulmonary circulation, arteries take the blood to the lung, right? From the heart. What kind of blood is that? Deoxygenated, right? But in systemic circulation, arteries take the blood out from the heart to the body. What kind of blood is that? Oxygenated, right? So it doesn't matter if it is oxygenated or deoxygenated. Any blood vessel that takes blood away from the heart, that's the artery. Make sense? And any blood vessel that brings the blood towards the heart, that is the vein. Vein. Make sense? So in opposite direction, artery and vein take the blood in opposite direction. One is away from the heart, another is towards the heart. Now, so I can say that transportation of blood is the function of the arteries and veins, right? They take the blood from one place to another place. Now, capillaries are responsible for gas exchange and exchange of nutrients and other chemicals. So, the exchange of gas, nutrients, and other chemicals occurs through the wall of the capillaries. So capillaries are for exchange and arteries and veins are for transport. Is it clear? Okay. Now, there are three types of arteries we have in our arterial system. The largest arteries are called the conducting or elastic arteries. Which ones are the elastic or conducting arteries? Example, your aorta, right? That's the largest artery. Your pulmonary trunk, those are big arteries attached to the heart. And why those arteries are called elastic arteries? Because in the wall of those large arteries, you have a lot of elasticity. Elastic tissue is present. Now, you see here, why you need a lot of elasticity in the elastic arteries or conducting arteries, because those are attached to the heart, right? Your aorta, pulmonary trunk, and when your ventricle contracts, suddenly a lot of blood enters into those arteries, right? And those arteries can expand, so the blood can go into it. If they cannot expand, what will happen? A lot of blood will come back into the heart, will try to come back because they will not get enough space. But since the elastic arteries can expand a lot, the blood will not backflow into the heart. It can take a lot of blood inside it. That's why you need the elastic arteries there. In large arteries, you need lot of elasticity. Now, uh, another type of arteries, those are called the muscular or distributing arteries. So, the muscular or distributing arteries do what? Give the blood from the elastic artery to the organs. For example, this is your aorta. Okay, this is what kind of artery? Elastic, right, or conducting, the largest. From aorta, you see many arteries arise. For example, going to kidney, renal artery. So this is renal artery. This is a distributing artery because it is taking the blood from elastic and giving to the organ. Pancreatic artery going to the pancreas. Hepatic artery going to the liver. You know that, right? So these are distributing arteries. Why? Because they are taking the blood from the elastic and giving to the distributing to the internal organs of the body. Now, after the arteries enter into the organs, they divide again and again and form the smallest arteries. Those are called the arterioles. So arterioles are the smallest arteries. Okay, so those are three types of arteries. And where the arterioles end, the capillaries start, because arterioles are the smallest arteries, and after the arterioles you have the capillaries. And the capillaries are very narrow, thin walled blood vessels. Why the capillary wall should be thin? Gas exchange, and exchange of nutrients and chemicals, right? So the wall, if the wall is thick, they will not be able to pass through, right? So that's why the capillary wall is extremely thin and porous. A lot of holes are there. So the gas and nutrients, chemicals can pass. Okay. So now capillaries often form networks called the capillary beds. So many capillaries, they get connected to each other and form networks, and those are called the capillary beds. Not all capillaries form capillary beds, but most of them form capillary network or beds. Now we'll see the wall of three types of arteries. If you see in the right side of this slide, you see they have shown by bar histogram, they have shown the amount of different types of tissues in three different types of arteries. We'll just focus on two types of tissues: smooth muscle, that means muscle tissue, and the elastic tissue. So the blue color and the red color, okay, middle two bars. First, let's see the top one. You see in the wall of the elastic artery, you have elastic tissue much more than the other two types of arteries. Compare the blue bar in all those three histograms. You see in the top one, that means in the elastic artery, the blue bar is the largest, right? That means the elastic artery is much more in the elastic tissue is much more in elastic artery. Then let's see the smooth muscle tissue. You see in the middle one, the amount of smooth muscle tissue is more than other two. compare the red, 3 red bars. That means in the muscular artery, you have more smooth muscle tissue than other two. That's why it is called muscular, right? More muscle. The wall is very thick. Then here the top picture is showing the wall of a capillary. Capillary wall is extremely thin and a single layer of squamous cells, that means simple squamous. Now you can think how thin it is. Simple squamous uh, tissue forms the epithelial tissue, forms the wall of the capillary. Now we'll see the veins. The smallest veins are called venules. Smallest arteries are called arterioles. Smallest veins are called venules. Make sense? Now, if you see the wall of a venule, it is also very thin, much thinner than the wall of an arteriole. So, wall of a venule is also very thin. A thin layer of smooth muscle, the red color, then a single layer of squamous cells, and around the squamous cells you will see some pericytes. You see those red colored cells. These cells are pericytes. So inner this layer, red layer, is the smooth muscle, very thin. Then simple squamous, the squamous cells, blue, and then pericytes. So surrounded by what? Pericytes. 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 Peri means around, right? Site means what? Well, so around the venule, you have the pericytes. Peri means around, site, cells. Now, if you see the wall of a vein, you see here a couple of things are noticeable here. You see the wall of a vein is thin. That means the lumen is larger. Now let's go back to the arterial wall. You see here. Let's compare the arterial wall. You see the arterial wall is very thick. That's why the lumen is narrow. But in the vein, the wall is thin. That's why the lumen is what? Big. And that makes sense, right? So the artery, this is the artery, this is the lumen, this is the wall. And this is a vein, this is the lumen, this is the wall. Okay, so now if you compare, the arterial wall is thick, venous wall is thin, arterial lumen is small, the lumen in a vein is larger. Okay, so if I ask you, tell me few differences between an artery and a vein, you can now mention artery and vein. In the artery, the wall is thick. In vein, the wall is thin. Number two, since the wall is thick, the lumen is small or narrow. Since the wall of the vein is thin, the lumen is large. Okay. Another thing, if you see the empty artery and an empty vein, since the arterial wall is thick, artery will always remain open, round, because the wall is thick. Just think that you have two tubes, right? One has thick wall, another has what? Thin. Now, which one will get easily flat? The thin one, right? So when there is no blood, artery will still remain open like this, round. Makes sense? Because the wall is thick. And if you take the blood out from the vein, veins will get flat because the wall is thin. So, lumen is round and open. In case of vein, when the blood gets out, the lumen gets flat and irregular. Flat and irregular. Okay. Now you can add more. Arteries carry the blood away from the heart, away, and veins bring the blood towards the heart, towards the heart. Okay. So those are few differences between the arteries and the veins. Another difference, this is also important. Inside the artery, the blood pressure is high because arteries receive the blood from the heart. When heart pumps, you see when your heart pumps, blood enters into what? Arteries, right? So the pressure is high. Then blood runs through the capillaries, right? And then enter into the vein. So by that time, the blood gets very slow and pressure is low because capillaries are very narrow and all blood passes through the capillaries, then enter into the veins. So in case of artery, the blood pressure is high. Inside the vein, the blood pressure is low. Here you see that from the heart, arteries take the blood out, away. First, the blood enters into the elastic or conducting arteries. Then through the distributing or muscular arteries, blood enters into the organs. And then the smallest arteries are arterioles. And from the arterioles, the capillaries start and form the capillary bed, where the exchange occurs. And then in the other side of the capillary bed, you have the venule. And then venules drain the blood into small veins, then medium-sized veins, then largest veins. So that's how the blood circulation takes place. And veins take the blood from the capillary bed towards the heart. Now we'll go over the main arteries in our body. First we'll see the major arteries. This is the picture of your systemic circulation. That means between the heart and the body. Remember, only the large blood vessels have been shown here. So first we'll see how arteries take blood to the upper part of the body. That means towards the head, neck and upper limbs. Okay, we'll see that first. Towards the head, neck and upper limbs. That means the upper part. So, in systemic circulation, you tell me, from left ventricle, blood enters into which artery? Aorta. Very good. So, aorta takes the blood from the left ventricle towards the body. In pulmonary circulation, who takes the blood from the heart? No, in pulmonary circulation, what kind of blood? Oxygenated or deoxygenated blood gets out. So, in the from right side or left side? Yeah, I told you to remember that, right? Right side deals with the deoxygenated, left side deals with the oxygenated blood. So, who pumps the blood out? Atrium or ventricle? So, right ventricle pumps the blood out, right? In pulmonary circulation. Left ventricle pumps the blood out in systemic circulation. Okay, and right ventricle, when right ventricle pumps the blood enters into what? Pulmonary trunk, then pulmonary arteries, right? To go to the lung. So we are talking about the systemic. So from the left ventricle, oxygenated blood enters into the aorta. So this is your heart, and you know that aorta goes like this. So this is the aorta, and aorta has three parts. This part going upwards, taking the blood up, that is what? Ascending aorta. So this is the ascending part. Then it makes an arch. So this is the aortic arch. It's like St. Louis arch, right? Then going downwards. So that is what? Descending. Okay. So those are three parts of aorta. What are the three parts? This is what? Aortic arch, and this part is the descending aorta. Which one is very long? Descending aorta is very long because descending aorta first goes through the thoracic cavity, then goes to the abdominal cavity, right? So you have the diaphragm here. You know that diaphragm, heart rests on the diaphragm. So your diaphragm is here. So above the diaphragm, which part is this? Thoracic part, right? And below the diaphragm, abdominal. Make sense? So this part is descending aorta has two parts. This part is what? Thoracic aorta. And this part is abdominal aorta. Make sense? Does it make sense? Yeah. So descending aorta is separated by the diaphragm. Above the diaphragm you have the thoracic aorta. Below the diaphragm you have the abdominal aorta. Is it clear? Okay. Now we'll see. This is the shortest part of the aorta, ascending aorta, very short. And from the ascending aorta, two arteries arise. Very important. They go to the heart wall. What are those? Right and left coronary arteries go to the wall of the heart. So the main branches of the ascending aorta are right and left coronary arteries. Okay. Then let's see the aortic arch. You saw the heart model, right? Did you see the heart model? From the aortic arch, how many arteries arise? Three. Good. Like this, right? 1, 2, 3. This is right side, this is left side. If this is right side, actually this is the heart, so it should be in opposite. Let's do this. This is right, this is left. So brachiocephalic tract, brachiocephalic cephalic trunk, we know that. Then what? Left common carotid and left subclavian. So those are three arteries arise from the aortic arch. Brachiocephalic trunk, left common carotid, and then what? Left subclavian. So you have left common carotid and left subclavian here. There must be right common carotid, right subclavian, right? Where are they? They are the branches of brachiocephalic trunk. So what happens? Brachiocephalic trunk, this one, divides into two. This one is right common carotid and right subclavian. Make sense? So brachiocephalic trunk divides into right common carotid and what? Right subclavian. So now here, how many common carotids? Two, right and left, right? How many subclavian you got? Two, right and left. Makes sense now, right? So you have two common carotids, right and left, two subclavian, right and left. Now, subclavian. Sub means what? Under, right? And clavian is clavicle. So subclavian will go under the clavicle. That means towards what? Arm, upper limb, right? Subclavian. Common carotid will go towards the head. Make sense? So one will go towards the head, another will go towards the arm or upper limb. Okay? Now you know which one is going in which direction. Make sense? So this one, subclavian, goes towards the arm. This one goes towards the arm, and these two go towards the head. Common carotids. Now, subclavian gives three branches. From subclavian, we get three branches. What are those three? 1, 2, 3. Just remember, from subclavian we get three branches. I'll show you in next picture. One is thyrocervical trunk, costocervical trunk, and vertebral arteries. I'll come to those arteries later. Just I'm mentioning here thyrocervical, costocervical, and vertebral. Those three come from the subclavian. Then the subclavian runs towards the arm, right? And when the subclavian reaches under the in the armpit area, this area is called what in anatomy? Axillary, right? So the artery is called now what? Axillary artery. Then goes to the brachial part, and it is now called the brachial artery. Make sense? Then goes to the forearm and divides into two. You see here, in your forearm, this side is what? Radius or ulnar? Radius. So radial artery, and in this side, ulnar artery. Make sense? So the brachial artery divides into radial and ulnar. From radial artery, we do what? Take the pulse. You know that we take the pulse from radial this side. Then in the palm, radial and ulnar do what? You see, this is radial, divides into two, ulnar divides into two, and join like arch, like this. How many arches do you have? Two arches, right?
Deep and superficial.
Yeah, superficial in this side and deep arch in this side. So you see here like this, radial and ulnar, they come and join like this, like that. Okay, the superficial palmar arch, deep palmar arch. Then from the palmar arches, you get the distal arteries go to the fingers. So from the palmar arch, distal arteries go like this.
Digital.
Digital, digital. So digital arteries go to the fingers. So that's the upper limb. Make sense? Same thing in both sides. Okay. Then we'll see the common carotid. When you will hear common in case of artery, most of the cases what happens, common arteries divide into internal and external. Most of the cases common divides into what? Internal and external. So this is the common carotid left and this is the right. What happens? The common divides into internal and external. Okay, internal and external. Make sense? And both go towards the head. Towards the head. Which one will supply the internal part of the head? Internal or external? Internal. Which one will supply blood to the outer part of the head? External carotid. There's a little bit overlap, but that's the idea. So, is it difficult? No. Because internal will go to the inner part of the head, external will go to the outer part of the head. So, if I ask you which one supplies blood to the brain? Internal, because brain is in inner part of the head, right? Which one supplies the scalp, bones, skin? External. Make sense? Muscles. So, that's how the internal and external carotid arteries supply blood to your head part. Okay? Then, so internal carotid supplies blood to the what? Brain. Remember, okay? And now, subclavian. Let's go back to subclavian. I told you how many branches here? Three. And one is costocervical. Costocervical. Another is thyrocervical. We'll see thyro. T-H-Y-R-O. Thyro. Cervical. I can't write there. And another is vertebral. Don't write. You'll see in the picture. Vertebral. Just know that this one is very important because vertebral also goes to the brain. Vertebral also goes to the brain. So now you got how many arteries go to the brain? Two. One is internal carotid, another is vertebral, right? So those two are the main arteries supply blood to the brain. Internal carotid and what? Vertebral. So let's see. So you got the idea here. Now it will be clear to you. You see here. This is the right side. So brachiocephalic trunk. This one. This is the aortic arch. Brachiocephalic trunk. It divides into, you see, subclavian and common carotid. Okay. Which one is going towards the head? And which one is going towards the upper limb? Subclavian. So this is subclavian, this is common carotid. Okay. Now, subclavian gives three branches here that I showed you here. Thyrocervical. First one is costocervical, then thyrocervical, then vertebral. This one. These names are very easy. Costocervical. Costal means what? Intercostal. Intercostal means what? Between what? Ribs. So costal means ribs. And cervical means what? Which part of the body? The cervical part. You forgot everything from a woman or a man? Cervical part of the body. Anatomical, in NP1 you learned all different areas, right? neck, neck, cervical. So costo-cervical. How many parts it has? Costo and cervical. Two, right? That means costal means what? Ribs. And cervical means neck. So costo-cervical divides into two branches. One will go to the ribs, another will go to the neck. And you see now picture. It will make sense. You see here. This is the costo-cervical trunk. It divides. One goes to the ribs, and another goes to the neck. Make sense? Costo-cervical. Thyrocervical. This makes sense too. Which gland you have here? Thyroid. So one branch will go to the thyroid gland and another will go where? To the neck. Thyrocervical. And I already have mentioned vertebral is very important because it goes to the brain. Brain. Okay. So the vertebral goes to the brain.
Does it also go to via the vertebrae? Does it go to the brain through the vertebrae?
Through the vertebrae, through the cervical vertebrae, you have a hole, and through that hole, the artery passes. Okay, so that's the subclavian. Okay, then subclavian goes to the armpit and becomes what? Axillary. Then, then arches, right? And from the arches, you have the distal arteries. Now let's see the common carotid. Common carotid divides into what? Internal and external. Which one goes to the inner part? Internal, right? And which part goes to the outer part of the head? External. I said there is overlapping, but you don't need to go into detail. Just know that internal supplies inner part. That means mainly to the brain. So now you tell me how many arteries you got that supplies blood to the brain? Vertebral and internal carotid. Those two are very important arteries supply blood to your brain. Okay. In the bottom of the brain, you see what happens. Those two arteries, what they do? Two vertebral arteries join together and form an artery that is called the basilar artery. So two vertebral arteries go to the brain that you know, and they do what? They join together to form the basilar artery.
Two vertebral arteries at the brain join
in the bottom of the brain, they join together to form what? You see the picture there. Basilar artery. Do you see in the picture? Okay. Then two internal carotid. Also, you know that they go to the brain. So these two are internal carotids. And these two are vertebral. You see two vertebral. This is basilar. And these two are internal carotid. Now, the branches from basilar and internal carotid, they form the circle of Willis here. This is the circle of Willis. So I am repeating again. This is the circle of Willis. Branches of internal carotids and basilar, they join together to form a circle, and that is called the circle of Willis. Okay, and that from that circle of Willis, blood goes to the brain. We have talked about this. You can easily understand. You see the subclavian goes to the armpit. It runs under the clavicle and goes to the armpit and becomes axillary. Then brachial divides into radial and ulnar and form in the palm, deep and superficial palmar arches, and you see the distal arteries. Those are the main arteries. Okay, there are small branches. Just know that. Now we'll go to the lower part. So who takes blood to the lower part? Here you see descending aorta. It has thoracic part and abdominal part, right? Thoracic part doesn't have many branches, although it is pretty long, but it doesn't have many branches. I'll just mention the branches of thoracic aorta. Those go to the diaphragm. You know, this is the diaphragm. We have talked about that. Diaphragm and arteries from descending aorta go to the diaphragm, and these arteries are called phrenic arteries. Remember, diaphragm is called phrenic. So phrenic nerve goes to diaphragm, phrenic arteries goes to diaphragm. Phrenic, phrenic artery. Okay, phrenic arteries go to the diaphragm. These are called superior phrenic arteries because they are coming from above, like this. Superior phrenic arteries go to the diaphragm from the thoracic aorta. Now we'll see the descending, the abdominal part of descending aorta. So this is the abdominal part of descending aorta. Abdominal part of descending aorta gives a number of arteries. So what are those arteries? First, the arteries go to the diaphragm. What should be the name? Phrenic. So these are superior or inferior? Inferior phrenic. Very good. Because coming from down. Inferior phrenic arteries. Okay, are the branches of abdominal aorta. Superior phrenic are the branches of thoracic aorta. And then from the front of the abdominal aorta, you have few arteries. Just remember the names. The superior one is the celiac trunk. Okay, celiac trunk. Can you see? Okay. Then the middle one is the superior mesenteric. Superior mesenteric. mesenteric. Superior mesenteric. And then inferior mesenteric. Inferior. You'll see in the picture. Just see inferior mesenteric. Okay. So if I ask you that from the thoracic part of aorta, those arteries go to the diaphragm, those are what? And from abdominal aorta, those arteries go to the diaphragm, inferior mesenteric, inferior phrenic, right? Phrenic is diaphragm. Now, from the front of the abdominal aorta, you see, this is the abdominal aorta. From the front, three arteries arise. Top one is what? Celiac trunk. Middle one is the superior mesenteric, okay, and the lower one is inferior mesenteric. Okay. Now the celiac trunk is getting crowded. So let me draw the abdominal aorta here. This is the diaphragm. This is the abdominal aorta. Okay. So diaphragm, the thoracic aorta. Yeah. So these are what? Inferior phrenic. Then celiac trunk, right? Superior mesenteric, inferior mesenteric. Celiac trunk is very short and it gives three branches: splenic artery, gastric artery, and going to the liver, that one is hepatic artery. So celiac trunk gives those branches. This trunk means short artery, short and wide. This is trunk, and then it divides. Splenic artery will go where? Gastric artery will go where? To the stomach. Gastric means stomach, right? And hepatic artery will go where? To the liver. Make sense? Hepatic means liver. You have heard hepatitis, right? Okay. Hepatic failure. Make sense? So that's the celiac trunk. Superior mesenteric goes to the upper part of the intestine. Inferior mesenteric goes to the lower part of the intestine. So superior goes to which part? And inferior to the lower, right? So now you tell me, upper part of intestine is small intestine or large intestine? Upper part of the intestine is small intestine, right? So small intestine mainly gets blood from which artery? Superior what? And if I ask you, large intestine mainly gets blood from inferior mesenteric. Is it clear? Mesenteric overlap little bit, like part of superior goes to the large intestine, part of inferior goes, but that's the main way how they supply blood to the intestine. So if I ask you, stomach gets blood from which artery? Celiac trunk, very good. Gastric artery, right? And then your small intestine mainly from mesenteric, and large intestine mainly from inferior mesenteric. Make sense? Diaphragm from superior and inferior phrenic arteries, right? Superior phrenic are the branch of thoracic, and inferior are the branches of abdominal aorta. Okay, now from the abdominal aorta, you know, in the abdomen you have so many organs. So many arteries, other arteries arise. Some of those are paired, some are unpaired. Paired arteries are renal artery, goes to the kidney. So renal. You have two kidneys, right? So you must have two renal arteries. So those are paired. Then you have gonadal. Gonadal arteries go to the gonads. That means testes or ovaries. Okay. And you also have lumbar. You know, this area is called the lumbar area, the back, right? Lumbar area. So lumbar arteries go to the muscles here, big muscles in the back of the abdomen. So paired arteries are renal arteries, gonadal arteries, lumbar arteries. Also, now you tell me, on the top of your kidney you have which gland? Adrenal glands, right? So adrenal gland is also called suprarenal gland. So suprarenal artery. suprarenal arteries. Those are also paired because you have two adrenal glands or suprarenal glands. So paired arteries are suprarenal arteries, renal arteries, right? Gonadal arteries, lumbar arteries. Those are paired arteries. So you got many arteries from the abdominal aorta, but thoracic aorta has only few. Now, what happens? The lower end of the abdominal aorta divides into two common ilia. Common ilia. Right and left. Right common iliac, left common iliac. Common will divide into what? I just mentioned few minutes ago.
Right?
No, internal and external. Good. So lower end of abdominal aorta divides into two common iliac, and common then divides into internal and external. See here, internal and external. This is internal and this is external iliac. So external iliac and internal iliac. See in that picture, the common iliac, the lower end of abdominal aorta or aorta, descending aorta divides into right and left common iliac, and they go to here. You see, here this is the common iliac, the right side, right common iliac, and divides into, you see here, here is the external and this one is internal. So which one is bigger? External is much bigger than internal, right? And external iliac goes to the thigh, the big one goes to the lower limb, and internal iliac remains where? In your pelvic area here. So internal goes to the pelvic area and external goes to the thigh, lower limb. Now if I ask you, the lower end of aorta divides into what? Two what? Iliac, right and left. And then right and left what? Common iliac, right? And each common iliac divides into what? Common. Common divides into what? Internal, external. Which one is bigger? And goes to the lower limb. Which one is smaller? And supplies blood where? To the pelvic cavity. Make sense? Pelvic area. Is it clear? Clear?
We'll stay here for about 5 minutes.
Yes.
Shut your mouth.
Okay. If I ask you, your urinary bladder, your uterus should get blood from internal or external iliac? Internal. Because those are in the pelvic cavity, right? Okay, good. Now, external iliac, which is the larger branch, goes to the thigh, and thigh area is called what? Femoral, right? So it becomes femoral artery. Now we call it as femoral artery. And you know that behind the knee, you have the popliteal area. I told you my favorite in exam NP1, I gave this question every time I give it. So popliteal area is in the back of the knee. So the artery, when it goes there, it becomes popliteal artery. Make sense? And then in the leg, it divides into the anterior tibial posterior tibial, and another branch that comes from posterior tibial is fibular. So those are three large arteries in the leg: anterior tibial, posterior tibial, and what? Fibular, because those are two bones, right? Tibia and fibula. In your forearm, you have how many bones? Two, radius and ulna. So you have those two arteries. In your leg, you have tibia and fibula, right? Remember, there are two tibial, anterior and posterior, and you have one fibula. And then in the foot, in your foot, they form arcuate arteries, and from arcuate arteries, uh, branches arise. Those are called metatarsal arteries, and then distal arteries. So that's all about the lower leg. Okay, so now I'll just stop here, but quickly review. You must now remember, I'm not asking you directly, but use your logic, right, and try to answer it. So, the systemic circulation starts in which chamber of the heart? Left ventricle, right? Pumps the blood, blood goes to the ascending aorta, then aorta. Then aorta has how many parts? Ascending, aortic arch, and descending. Which part is the longest? Descending aorta. So it is divided by what? Diaphragm. Above the diaphragm, that part is called thoracic. Below the diaphragm is called abdominal, right? Now let's start from ascending, the shortest part. Ascending aorta gives two very important arteries, very important, goes to the heart, to go to the heart. What are those? Coronary artery, right? Right and left coronary arteries. Coronary blockage can kill the person. Then aortic arch. From the top of the arch, how many arteries arise? Three. Brachiocephalic trunk, left common carotid, subclavian. So which are missing? Right common carotid, right subclavian, right? They arise from brachiocephalic trunk. They are the branches of. Now you have right common carotid, left common carotid, right subclavian, left subclavian. Make sense? Now, common carotid and subclavian. Which one runs under the clavicle? Subclavian. Make sense? And goes towards the arm. First, it gives three branches. Costocervical, thyrocervical, and what? Vertebral. Which one goes to the brain? Vertebral. Okay. And then subclavian goes to the armpit and becomes what? Then arm. Then forearm. Arm. And in the palm form how many arches? Two. Okay. Superficial and deep. Superficial in this side, deep in this side. And from there you have the digital arteries. Okay. Now let's see. Common carotid. I told you common carotid will divide into what? Internal, external. Which one will go to the inner part of the head? Internal. So your brain will mainly get blood from the internal, right? So now you got two arteries. That means two pairs of arteries go to the brain. You have what? Two vertebral and two internal carotid, right? Those two go to the brain. And they form what? In the bottom of the brain? Circle of Willis, right? Two vertebrae join together to form the basilar artery. And from the basilar artery branches and internal carotid branches from the circle of Willis. Make sense? Okay. Now let's go to the descending aorta. First part is what? Thoracic, right? And two arteries go to the diaphragm. Those are what? superior phrenic. Phrenic means diaphragm. And then this abdominal aorta. Two arteries go to the diaphragm. Inferior phrenic, right? They are going from the bottom. And then from the front of the abdominal aorta, three arteries. The top one is what? It gives blood to gastric, splenic, and hepatic, right? Okay. Then superior mesenteric mainly gives blood to the inferior mesenteric, large intestine. So basically, your gastrointestinal tract is covered, right? Stomach, small intestine, large intestine. Then you have paired arteries. What are the paired arteries? Renal, and above the renal you have which glands? Suprarenal glands, right? So you have suprarenal arteries, renal arteries, gonadal arteries, right? Going to the testes and ovaries, lumbar arteries, right? Going to the back. So those are paired arteries. Make sense? Then the lower end of abdominal aorta divides into what? Common ileum. How many? Two. Right and left. Common will divide into what? External, internal. Which one is bigger? External is bigger and goes to the internal remains in the pelvic cavity, right? So if I ask you in the test your urinary bladder, uterus, those get blood from what? Internal. And when the external goes to the thigh, it becomes what? Femoral. Back of the knee, in the leg, tibial and fibular. How many tibial you have? Anterior and posterior, one fibular, right? And then in the foot, you have the arcuate artery, and also you have arches, two arches like your palm, uh, plantar and dorsal. You know that this is the dorsal surface. You remember dorsiflexion, plantar flexion. So this is the dorsal surface, this is the plantar, right? So dorsal arch and plantar arch. Okay, and then metatarsal and distal. So that's all the arterial system. Okay, here you see plantar and dorsal. Yes.
I want to see the plantar arch.
They did not show dorsal arch here. Okay. So they did not show here.